morning. I have the Miss Zoe Knight. Like I want to
Yeah.
call you a Knight, but your surname is Knight, so that doesn't work, does it?
No, I know. Do you know what? When Luke and I got married, it was like a big discussion around whether I would take his last name, but he decided that he liked Knight way better. So he took my name.
Wow. I'm not surprised because it sounds like a superhero.
Yeah, so Luke's legal name is Christopher. So his proper name is Christopher Lucas Lehman, but he's known as Luke because his dad was known as Christopher. So he was like, oh, Luke Knight. And then he's like, oh, I would legally be Christopher Knight, but known as Luke Lehman. And I was like, it's like you've got an alter ego. Like
So many different options.
too many, too many.
So is it Zoe or Zoe?
It's Zoe.
Zoe.
But it's kind of like I get called both.
You get called
It depends how lazy, like how quick people want to get the name out. They
Fair
use
enough.
a little or two.
Fair enough. So where are you now?
Right
Where are
now,
you? Yeah.
Luke and I are based in Brisbane, and we've been here for the last, oh my God, like 5 years now. But in terms of like where in Brisbane, we're just in our home and I'm in our office and we've got little like Pablo on the floor. So we've got some dogs running around and I'm hoping that they don't disrupt us too much.
They'll make it an interesting episode, which I'm
Yeah,
sure
they
we're going to
will.
have. So tell me a little bit about yourself, Zoe.
All right. So where to start? How far back to start? So I am one half of Muscle Nerds. Really interesting story about that though. So like when we started Muscle Nerds, we started Muscle Nerds 6.5 years ago out of just pure necessity. So I had met Luke. I'm from New Zealand. Luke's from Texas in America. And I had met Luke here in Australia. I'd gone to one of his courses in Sydney, and didn't like him, thought he was like, I don't know, rude and arrogant. I even gave him like a bad review when Poliquin Group sent out like their post-course questionnaire. Like I gave him a bad review. I was like, felt like you couldn't ask him questions, like wasn't approachable, felt like he knew it all, like all sorts of stuff. Anyway, I then flew back to Brisbane where I was living at the time, and he flew from Sydney to Gold Coast to stay with a friend of his in Gold Coast, which is the trainer that I had heard of the Poliquin Group course through. So there's kind of like a mutual person that we knew. He then found me on social media, added me, and asked me on a date, and I was like, absolutely not. Like, there's no way. And then he was just so persistent. So he was only there for 3 weeks before he flew back to America. And for about 2 weeks, he just like kept asking. And I was like, you know what? Fine. Actually, it was one of the ladies at work just said, just go on a date with him. Like, what have you got to lose? You don't do, like, when was the last time you ever had any fun or did anything like this? And I was like, you know what? Yeah, like I won't have to see the guy again. Like, it'll just be a fun weekend. Anyway, so I went on a date and it just felt like we'd, like, without being cliche, it just felt like we'd been together forever. I ended up staying down on the Gold Coast for the full 4 days until he flew out because our date was like, I caved right towards the end of his time there. And just, yeah, like I said, felt like we've been together forever. He then went back to America. We kept in touch, like we FaceTimed and chatted like all the time. 3 months later, I sold both of my cars. Sorry, I didn't have two cars. I had two jobs. I quit both of my jobs, sold my car, and flew over to America just to see like what would happen. It just felt like more of a risk to not do it, if you know what I mean. So did that. When I was over there, he got let go from Poliquin Group. Like he finished up with Poliquin Group. So then we both found ourselves, we were in Rhode Island at the time, and we were like, okay, so neither of us have any jobs. I've only got enough money to last me for the rest of the month before I go back to Australia. And so we just out of necessity announced that we would be starting Muscle Nerds. So he just put up a post saying, we're taking on online clients under a company called Muscle Nerds. We had no set up, no structure, no systems. Like it was literally like the day we decided, it was the day after I think he got let go or finished up, we just decided that we'd announce it and announced it like right then and there. And from that point on, we were just contacted with people that wanted to work with Luke, but that hadn't wanted to work with Poliquin Group. And we were just like really reactive to what people were asking for. They're like, do you take on online clients? And we're like, yep, we do. Like, do you just do nutrition only? We're like, yep, we do. And then like we ended up getting very lucky. He got invited to Canada to speak in Canada. Then he got flown to Kuwait to hold a seminar for some trainers there. And while we were there, we're like, let's hold one in Dubai. And then we kind of just like for 2 years, we like hopped around the world, asked like just going where people were asking and saying yes to everything and figuring it out later. When that kind of happened, so like especially the first couple of years, I really felt like I was riding off the coattails of Luke. Like, obviously, at the time, I said I only had about a month's worth of finances left before I needed to go back to Australia and get another job. And then so when we announced Muscle Nerds, obviously that was off the back of Luke. Like, people were wanting Luke. So I didn't feel like I was entitled. I just felt like I was, like I said, in his shadows, riding off his coattails. I was like, oh, this is nothing to do with me. This is all the Luke Lehman show. But gradually over the years, I've really I don't feel that way anymore. I've really kind of like our strengths and weaknesses really complement each other. So I'm very much the back end of everything. I run everything behind the scenes. And we've when we got back to Australia, it would have been 2 years after we started Muscle Nerds, we were able to sit down and say, what do we want Muscle Nerds to be? Where do we want to take it? What do we want to deliver? Like, what do we, let's be a bit more proactive than reactive. And so since then, we were able to structure the company to really be structured around Luke's strengths, which is just teaching, learning, coaching, and then everything else just falls into like my basket to deal with. So that's me in a real nutshell. I don't want to say the back end half of Muscle Nerds because that sounds gross, but I'm definitely like kind of behind the scenes. I try and keep everything together and implement all of Luke's crazy and wild ideas about what he wants to do next. And but yeah, and that keeps us pretty busy. We also own a gym here in Brisbane, which is just a small boutique gym, which I'm currently in the process of trying to stop working in. Like, I took I think it was like 10 or 11 classes a week I was taking there, and we've finally just hired another coach to take over half of those for me, and to start working on, because between that, Muscle Nerds, and I also part-time study a Bachelor of Health Science. So between those three things and the 3 dogs that we have, I'm kept pretty busy.
Sounds like that's pretty hectic. And I'm glad that you mentioned that you are, let's call it the foundation, but like support system of Muscle Nerds, because my first experience of Muscle Nerds was Luke.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And then I did his course. The thing that I remembered, the Muscle Nerds, it was a few years ago. The big standout was how much coffee he drank.
Oh,
and at the time, I was like, how's this guy standing up? Anyway, and not dancing and just floating. I thought he was levitating at one stage. And his teeth were super white. I was like, yeah, he's got good luck. That's important,
I brought him veneers for his birthday a few years back.
Yeah, so that was my first experience. So if everyone's listening, Luke Lehman is almost like the royalty of the health and fitness, all over the world. Let's just say it that way. That was my first experience of Muscle Nerds. But then I think I remember I was doing part of the online, which was part of the course. And then this chick with a New Zealand accent kept popping up. I'm like, she knows what she's talking about. And she's, who is this girl, And then I was like, well, I should do some Instagram stalking. And lo and behold, you popped up with your beautiful dishes. And I was like, I think I can relate. I mean, I like Luke's content and information, the Muscle Nerds, all that stuff, but it's just a different approach,
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you said that you are like the kind of
the yin and yang.
Yeah, exactly.
Really are. Like, we really are. And you know what's really interesting is, so when we first, obviously it was so early on in our relationship that we started Muscle Nerds together. We were still learning each other personally because it was such a accelerated start to the relationship as it was, let alone then being like, let's start a business together. It was never the intention. It's just how it ended up happening. But for the first few years, as I was learning his personally as well, I was also learning how he worked, like professionally. And it did my head in at how, like, his work methods. He's diagnosed ADHD, and at the time he wasn't medicated. He's medicated now, which makes him a little bit more somewhat organized and structure. But I remember just like I'd be banging my head against a wall, just being like, why are you doing it that way? Like, why aren't you just doing this? I think we've probably in our entire relationship had about 5 big arguments, and every single one of them has been instigated by me and has been about work. But it infuriated me until I started doing a lot of, like, I started watching a lot of TED Talks and videos and on YouTube, and reading some blogs and articles about people with ADHD. And I just realized, like, I have to let him work how he works, and I have to be okay with that, because his strengths are my weaknesses and my strengths are his weaknesses, and we complement each other. Like, I can't keep trying to make him like me, because that wouldn't work. We wouldn't gel. Like, we definitely yin and yang. We are polar opposites in almost every regard, except like our foundational values, which is it makes life really interesting.
But that's what it's all about, right?
100%.
We're gonna bring it back to one topic, and then I'll come back to that. But it's like with food. If you have one flavor, I think there was like a study where, if you put, I don't know if it was a study, but I think someone said something like, if you put a bag of sugar in front of someone and told them just to eat sugar, just the whole bag of sugar, how much can you possibly consume without feeling sick?
100%.
And hating it.
That's it with anything. I mean, you see it with alcohol, right? When people get real sick off drinking one alcohol and they can't touch the stuff again. And also, like, on that topic of sugar, what's really interesting is, like, you see a lot of people that are like, oh, you're just addicted to sugar. It's like you crave sugar. If you actually look at what they're binging on and eating, it's not sugar, it's highly palatable foods. It's that perfect mix of sugar and fat and salt. And there's literally scientists out there whose job it is to design food that makes you not be able to stop eating it. That fires all the right places of your brain, that makes you just want to keep eating it. And it's that perfect balance of, sweet, fat, salty. So most people very rarely are just like chasing that sugar binge, because then they'll just be going for like straight lollies. But they don't. They go for like the donuts, the biscuits, the chips, and all that sort of stuff.
That's so true. It's like sometimes when you eat like this, I bought these Mexican chips once. I forgot what they're called. They're like they're not hot, that hot. They're really skinny. They're very popular on Instagram. And anyway, they're just like salty and sweet at the same time. And I was like, what is in these?
Can't stop eating these.
Yeah, what is in these? Yep.
Someone
so that
came up with
makes
the perfect
sense.
recipe.
That's it. They're doing the right. They've got the formula. Now, tell me what your background is, because I'm interested why you went and did Luke's course.
Right. Okay. That's interesting too. So at the time, I went to BioSig. It was Poliquin Group's biosignature course in 2015. It was at the very start of 2015. At the time I was working in 8 till 5. I was working in recruitment. At the time, mining recruitment, and I kind of just fell into that job. But prior to that, my background was when I left school, I went into my first year of law and psychology, hated it. I just kind of like, this sounds so obnoxious, but I kind of just like flew through school, never really gave it any effort or attention. And when I got to uni, I was like, I cannot pull law out of my ass. Like, I had no study skills. Like, it was just a real shock. And back home in New Zealand, I had to move from Hawke's Bay to Wellington. So I had to move away from home. I was 18 and I was not ready. I chose law. I don't even know why I chose law. Like, I'm a numbers person. Like, I like data and numbers. Like, logical things make sense to me. Science makes sense to me. English and the written word is very like black and gray and interpretive, and it's just not my strong point. Don't know why I did that, but anyway, so I'd always worked in like any type. When I left, I ended up working in conveyancing, like the buying and selling of houses. I moved back to Hawke's Bay and got a job doing that or helping with that. And then when I moved over to Australia in 2008, I got a job at a litigation finance company, and it kind of like I was always on that legal side of stuff. But I remember I got into fitness and exercising, I should say, when I moved over to Australia. Like I'd always played netball growing up and stuff like that, but I was always the nerd. Like I was, do you remember when you were in primary school and you used to like, always you'd have your book for every subject and you'd have your title page, like you'd draw up a title page for your science book and your maths book. I was like the person that people would ask, can you do up my title page? Like, can you draw up? I mean, I was just like, always the nerd, always reading. You know, I'd go to the library and just I'd get out as many books as you could, which I think was 5 books. A bike home and then I just read. Like I was much more into the intellectual side of thing than I was like physical. I just was never overly physical growing up too much. Anyway, so where was I going with that? Oh, so I got into fitness when I moved over here in 2008. And I started doing like the boot camps, like the box fit classes, like, you know, the traditional type of cardio stuff that most females get into when they decide they want to start exercising. It started off with doing like a 12-week challenge in the park with some friends. And then it moved into like more regular boot camps. Anyway, I went to a class. It was a Brisbane boxing studio. They have a few different ones around. And the guy who normally took the class was away and the owner took it. He was phenomenal. Like I just remember being like, I got home, it was a Saturday morning. I got home and I was in the shower and I was like, I want to be like him. Like I want to be like, he was so good and so motivating. I got out of the shower. I looked up schools, like fitness colleges. I applied for 3 or 4 different schools. That Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I had interviews at 3 different colleges. I got accepted on that Wednesday. Like the final one was through Max Fitness College. They ended up asking me, they were like, you know, what is it that has made you want to come start joining, blah, blah, blah. And I told them. They ended up calling. Oh, and there was like another lady who was running the boot camps, which I had said that was also like really influential. They ended up trying to call them to tell them, hey, just letting you know that we've had this girl come in and sign up for her Cert 3 and 4, and it's because of you that she's done this. Like they tried to pass that information on. The boot camp lady, they were able to get through to her, and she called me on the Thursday and was like, hey, I've just found out that you're doing your Cert 3 and 4. And I was like, yeah, I am. And she goes, perfect, because I'm calling to offer you a job. And I was like, oh my goodness. So from making the decision on the Saturday to actioning it at the start of the week, by Thursday, like my whole life was now on a different like path. So I started working there part-time because I still had my 8 till 5 and I was still studying. So I was studying, working 8 till 5. I was working in the mornings. I was doing boot camps and ended up like shadowing and then eventually taking my own clients over in the mornings. Then I'd go 8 till 5 recruitment. I'd go back and then I'd do some evening classes and then I would train myself and I'd get home about 9:30. And they were just like huge days. And I was doing that for almost a couple of years. And I just remember being really super inquisitive in nature anyway. And I just remember getting to a point where I was like, there is more to someone's health and results than the 45 minutes I've got them in class. What is it? And so that's how I had been going down to do Saturday sessions down the Gold Coast with the coach Tyrone Jensen. He's the one who I heard of BioSig through. He's a BioSig practitioner. So he was telling me about BioSig and I was like, that sounds like something that is relevant to the extra 23 hours of your day type stuff. And that's when I booked in, looked up BioSig, saw that they were going to be in Brisbane in March 2015. And I rang up my mum. And I was like, I feel like it was $1,500 US. Ooh. And I called my mum and I was like, can I please borrow some money to do this course, like to go to Sydney for the weekend? I think I had to borrow money off her for like the flights, accommodation, and the course. God knows how I didn't have it when I was working 2 jobs. I don't know. And I think with the currency conversion to New Zealand dollar, I think it cost you like 2.5 grand or something. And I'm so thankful.
It's practically double.
But yeah, it was back then, for sure it was. But I just remember like, thank God she did, because I ended up going to Sydney and that's where I met Luke. And
I'm going to stop you right there.
Yeah,
wait,
go.
1 second. Thanks, Mum.
Yeah, yes. Oh my God, I know.
What's Mum's name?
I haven't even paid her back yet. My mum's name is Margaret.
Margaret, we love you. Thank you for believing in Zoe. Continue. You met Luke?
Yeah, I met Luke because Mum lent me almost $3,000
Margaret.
And I still haven't paid back.
Come on, girl.
I should put that on my to-do list.
Please.
But yeah, so that's essentially how I ended up going there. But then the thing is, from that point, like that was in March 2015, and it was at June that I flew over to America. So from June 2015 is kind of like when I stopped coaching anyone. So I don't have a lot of experience as a coach. Like I only had those couple of years when I was doing it part-time, because obviously when we started Muscle Nerds, like that's Luke's strength. You know what I mean? Like he's the one with all of the years experience. It doesn't make sense me trying to fit into that role as well when I've got all of the admin side of the skills and like the back end stuff. But again, because I'm inquisitive in nature, I just love to learn. In 2017, when we had decided that we were going to settle in Australia and try and get Luke his visa here, I just said to him, like, I really want to study. Like I felt like I still needed to do something for me. Muscle Nerds at the end of the day is still Luke's company. Like, even though it's both of ours, like he's the face of it. He's the brains behind it. It's just the substance is him for it. Essentially, he's the one that's irreplaceable in the company. Do you know what I mean? So
He's he's the flavor.
He's the flavor. Yep, he is the flavor, and he's not one single flavor. I'll tell you that. He's a lot of flavors. But yeah, so I just need to do something for myself. So that's when I started studying Bachelor of Health Science. And I've been chipping away at that part-time since 2017. And it's just something that's mine, and like it's teaching me, and I can hand on my heart say that I've, done it all myself and achieved everything without the brains of Luke. Do you know what I mean? Like it's something I've accomplished, I'm doing on my own, because standing in Luke's shadows is tough. Like he's so smart. He's too smart for his own good.
He knows his stuff, yes. But in saying that, like obviously you're bringing a different flavor to the new different recipe, let's just say. And like what is, you said health science, what is that?
So I initially started doing it in naturopathy. So a Bachelor of Health Science is just basically, you're very, I want to say basic level, but it obviously gets more complex because it's a 4-year full-time degree. So 4-year full-time or 8 years part-time. And it's just your biochem, your anatomy, your cell physiology, and all that sort of stuff, your biology. But then depending on what you decide to stream to do. So I started off doing naturopathy. So then therefore there would then be the subjects, once you've done all your foundational ones, there'd be your subjects around your herbs, and all that sort of stuff. I found that I was just lacking the interest in that. So I ended up changing and doing it in nutrition and dietetics, even though it's not, I don't know why they call it dietetics, because it doesn't give you a qualification as dietitian, just gives you a qualification as a nutritionist. So then that shifted more into the food science. So, I've done subjects such as nutritional medicine, pharmacology, pathology and clinical sciences, and all that sort of stuff. And the streams to then be, once I've finished, I will be a qualified nutritionist.
Amazing. You've come a long way from HR to personal trainer, working in the mornings, to law, so back in the day, and psychology, and then you said naturopathy, and then science, health science, nutrition. I'm just thinking, like, obviously you grow as a person, but I'm looking at the social media and seeing that there's team natural people, kind of naturopathy.
Naturopathy.
Sorry,
that one.
And then there's team science-based.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Can we meet halfway, or can we fuse them?
We should. We really should. Unfortunately,
and why?
They
should
hate
we?
each other.
Why?
Because the Western medicine system, so like, the real, that you go to the doctors, you get pharmaceuticals and stuff like that. Very, very good for acute conditions. You break an arm, you have really high blood pressure, you get down really quickly. You have an allergic reaction or anything like that. Really good. It's not so good for really low level chronic accumulative conditions. Whereas that's where like the natural side of things addresses more so lifestyle. Whereas this is like a good way to explain it is, I think, natural medicine is more preventative, better for chronic stuff because it addresses lifestyle. And what I think the methods within that do is it coaxes the body to do what it's designed to do in its own realm of healing. Westernized medicine forces the body into certain ways. Here's a medicine, it's going to completely alter it instantly, like the way your body reacts instantly. Whereas this is like, let's coax you there, let's get your body wanting to do it on its own. It's a much more softer approach, but it's a much longer approach. Whereas this is like short, sharp, let's get you fixed right now. They both have pros, they both have cons. Neither of them are perfect systems. So it would make sense that they would meet in the middle. And it's like, hey, I'm going to give you this, like high blood pressure, for example. You go to the doctor, they give you a blood pressure medication. Here it is. Okay, cool. Whilst we're going to give that to you now so it can save your life and it doesn't keep being, it lowers it quickly. I want you to go over here though and fix the issues as to why it's gotten high in the first place. So then we can eventually get you off the blood pressure medication. Like that's a perfect example. Like they would complement each other so well. The problem is there's just not many people that can understand the pros and cons to both. Like anyone in the medical world thinks that is the answer to everything. And you know what, like I know that, if you do have anything major wrong with you, the first place to go is to your doctor or the hospital, because that's who's going to fix you. So because you don't go, well, not many people would go like, if you had a heart attack, you wouldn't go to your naturopath.
No, you wouldn't go to your shaman. Excuse me.
Yeah, that's right. So I think that they definitely have this side here, the westernized medicine world. They definitely have that air of authority. And it's almost like a lot of them are closed off to this. I was very lucky. My biology lecturer, she was a DNA scientist, and apparently it was her colleagues that cloned Dolly the sheep. Like, I don't know if you remember the way they
cloned. 100%. Yeah.
So it was her colleagues. She said the first time she was in the lab and they replicated the DNA, she put down her stuff as she left, and she was like, there are some things in like nature that humans should not interfere with, and she was just so strong on that. She then moved into natural medicine, so she was teaching us like naturopathy, aromatherapy. Like I know people have really strong stances on that. I've never looked into it, I don't know enough. The concept could work. But I also think we shouldn't be so naive to think that just because we don't understand it, it doesn't exist. But yeah, so she had a really science westernized background and was teaching it, and she was amazing. Like she was just like phenomenal, her insights and her points of views and her opinions on things. And it's just like, you just saw how valuable it is to have knowledge and experience in both. So yeah, I wish that they would work together. I think there'd be a lot of benefit to work together. I think at the end of the day, all that's going to do is serve more people and help more people if people could learn to do that. But God, man, humans are complex. Ego is a huge thing, right?
Definitely. I mean, I see it with my mom. My mom's 80. She's been on blood pressure medication for quite some time. Obviously, it's a natural part of aging,
Yeah.
especially with that generation. But we have to always watch the kidneys.
Yeah.
We have to always just
liver.
all those
detox
little
stuff.
things, and you try and persuade that generation to think outside. It's a bit challenging.
Hugely challenging. My parents are the same. My parents are in their 60s, mid 60s. And it's very much the mentality of like, well, something's wrong, I need a pill to fix this. And also, like, I remember when my mum was over here for a holiday once, she's saying, Luke's like, where are you getting your protein from? Like, when are you eating your protein? Because she'd have honey on toast every morning for breakfast. Then she'd have like a sandwich for lunch. And then she'd have like, you should have meat and veggies for dinner usually. But yeah, so mum, and he was like, you don't eat well. And she's like, I eat well. And he'll see everything up. I said, Mum, you're really
Brown
not.
food.
Food. Full of brown. Yeah, lots of brown food. Which I mean, in and of itself isn't bad, but if it's all you're eating, like, he took her blood glucose and it was high, and she's just like, they're a different era.
They are a different era, but in saying that, they have a lot of positives. Like with my mom, we're Middle Eastern, so we basically all our diet was plant-based, really.
Yeah, amazing.
That's how I grew up on. And then when I speak to people, I speak to clients, I'm like, well, you might need a salad, or have this, and it's so hard for them. They can't even put that into their brain. They can't even understand the concept that if you drink a little bit more water, that you might not be constipated.
Yeah. have a little bit more fiber, like
Just a little bit more.
Veggies. Yeah, that's it. And that's what Luke likes to say. He's like, everyone should eat plant-based, but garnish it with meat.
But that's a big thing for someone from Texas.
I know. He's like, if you're willing to eat a kilo of steak, you need to be willing to eat a kilo of veggies.
Wow.
It's all about balance though, right? Like everything has a point of diminishing returns, every single thing. Like there's, even no matter, something being good for you is only good within a range. Like it's not, you can have too much of anything.
Even too much fiber.
You can have too much fiber, 100%. Yep. And that can cause nutrient deficiencies. It can clog you up. It can make you bloated, to anything. And there's a sweet spot for everything. And some sweet spots are really big. You know what I mean? Like broccoli. You have a really large sweet spot. It's going to take a lot for you to, well, depending if you eat it raw, it's probably going to cause a lot of issues. But so everything, water is great, but there's a really large sweet spot, and then there's like a donut sweet spot. It's like this small.
Definitely. Well, definitely.
Yeah.
So how do you, figure something out or program for people? Because you and I, or people in the fitness industry, we find it a bit more easier to have a salad or greens, or exercise. It's not like, oh my God, I hate this. But average population who don't like to exercise, like to really drink, don't like to cook.
It's a big one. That's what started us, you and I, having a chat about this. Hey, it was right. Like the cooking, the benefits of learning how to cook. Do you reckon it's a lost art? It's a losing art.
Absolutely.
How to cook. Yeah.
I'll tell you why. I think number one, we don't have that connection to, like, I'm going to say, like family or friends, where we come together and we sit on a table and we prepare. So we're always in a rush. And obviously everything's quite easily accessible as well.
Convenience.
Convenience is a big thing. And we have lost the art of just like, I call it a little bit of mindful meditation in cooking, because that's what I do. I like it.
You probably have some intuition around food though, which is lost. It's lost. We don't even have the connection to the land anymore. Like my dad grew up a hunter. So we ate venison every single night of the week. I'm not even kidding. That was our main source of meat. Was he would hunt every weekend. He'd go out, he'd shoot a deer, and that would feed us for the week. And I'm not exaggerating. We would have venison steak, venison sausages, venison mince, a venison roast, venison savoys. I don't know if you remember savoys. Anyway,
what's savoys?
He would just, it's like, I don't know how to explain it, but it's like a sausage, but you boil it.
Okay.
Strange. I think it must be a Kiwi thing.
Must be a
Kiwi
boil of sausage. We don't boil sausages.
No, anyway. But you boil a savoy.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
I'm gonna look it up.
My mom used to cook intestines. She used to cook intestines, so that could be close enough.
That's what they used to make the casings of sausages out of.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
I used to come home. She's like, you better eat this.
Yeah. But yeah, so we grew up on venison, and so even that there is like some connection to where your meat comes from. So now, and again, growing up, we didn't go a lot with Dad. I think if we were boys, he might have taken us more often, but we weren't. So it's just me and my sister. And people don't grow their own food anymore. Like there is a really big disconnect between someone grabbing a steak off the shelf at the supermarket and realizing that was a cow. You know what I mean? Like imagine how many people would be vegetarians if you had to go out and kill your own meat.
No one would do it. No one would do it. Everyone would be
vegetarian.
100%. Definitely.
Or pescatarians. They'd probably be all right going and catching a fish, but they wouldn't kill a chicken. They wouldn't kill a cow. There'd be a very limited amount of people who would do that if you had to kill your own food.
Yeah.
Even back to growing foods and seasonal products. Like we just have lost the connection, not just to the people, but to the land, and to food. And we don't have any intuition around food anymore. Like when you look at animals, they just instinctively know what they need to eat, and whether they learn that from their parents, obviously they probably do. But
do you grow anything? Do you grow?
No, we don't, because we rent.
So we've got a community garden here.
Wait until we buy, and that's the first thing I'm going to do. I have been dying to grow. Like I've got we've had, I'm not very good at keeping plants alive, but we've had like our herb plants, a tomato plant and all that sort of stuff. But I can't wait to just plant. And I don't know why that is not common amongst every house. have a front yard or a backyard. And I know this is probably like a privileged statement to even consider that everyone has a front yard and a backyard, but the houses that have it, like what, and public council spaces, why are we not having fruit trees? Why are we not, do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's
I
so
think also
easy and
it's the ground as well. It's got like
Yeah.
arsenic. They have to do a test
Yeah.
as well. That's what you're supposed to do.
Most fruit seeds have arsenic in it as well, which is why you shouldn't have your pets
Oh, great.
eat like
Yes.
like passion fruit seeds are a big one. Apple
Yes.
seeds.
Talking about pets. I noticed that you've got an Instagram page for Daisy.
Yeah.
Talk to me about your babies.
Daisy's so special. So we what's what I'm looking for, sponsor a room at the RSPCA. We just make like a monthly, it's been doing it for years now. And when Luke and I got his visa here, it was just a year-long visa initially. We got our own place. So we'd just been staying with friends and like sharing rooms and stuff until that point. So we got our own place. And when we moved in, we had like this bootload of towels and sheets and stuff, old towels and sheets that we took out to the RSPCA to drop them off. And we took them out, and while we were there, we went and had a look around like all the rooms, and we get to the very last room, and Daisy, oh my God, she was just sitting in it, and Luke crouched down because it was like a big glass wall, and he crouched down, and she came up and sat right in front of the glass and then put her paw on the glass. And I was just like, we are not leaving without her. Like I just had this feeling of I will move heaven and earth. We had just moved into this apartment. It's a 1-bedroom apartment with this tiny courtyard. We didn't even have approval to have a dog, but it was literally like, I don't care. Like, I'll fucking pay whatever to break lease. Sorry. I'll pay whatever to break lease. We have to have her. And it was, then and there we applied, we got her, we took her home. It was like, we went to drop off towels and sheets and came back with a dog. But it was honestly, I just think she chose us. And she was, I don't know what her background was or how she was at the RSPCA, but she was just so timid. I don't believe she had been exposed to the world at all. Like, we tried to take her for the first walk and she was just petrified of everything. We couldn't crate train her. We couldn't get her anywhere near anything that she felt enclosed in. Like, we got her a toy box. She wouldn't put her head in it. And I just feel like, from based on some symptoms, she was petrified of children, like froze up around children. I think what had happened was she had, my assumption, like, I don't know this, but from how she acted, it wouldn't surprise me if she had been kept in a crate, like gotten as a pet as a family, realized, wow, dogs are a lot of work and a lot of effort, especially puppies, put in a crate and then left there, and maybe kids like tormented her through it or anything, because she wouldn't even walk through like doorways up and down. She didn't know how to walk up and down stairs, like nothing. So she's really come out of her shell though, and now she is sassy and stubborn and rude, and she's just sitting on the floor over here now. But she's so beautiful. And then we ended up getting the little dogs. So Pablo was an interesting story. Daisy had a Chihuahua. So our neighbors had a Chihuahua. So we lived in this 1-bedroom unit. We also ended up having to get Daisy's knees operated on. So she's got bad knees and we have to get her hips done soon. So she's just like, when the surgeon was in doing her knees, he came out and he said that her growth plates indicated she was 3 to 4 months younger than we were told. So when we got her from the RSPCA, they told us that she was 7 months old. But he said she's 3 to 4 months younger than that. So she only would have been like 3 or 4 months old when we got her. Anyway.
Baby,
no wonder she was so cute and little. But with Pablo, so we used to live, like I said, a 1-bedroom unit, and there was a unit next door, and they had a Chihuahua, and the Chihuahua used to come and sit out on the top steps every day. And Daisy would come out whenever it came out. It was like 4:00 in the afternoon, the owner would let it out, and she'd always go out and sit next to it, and they'd like sniff each other through the fence. I said to Luke one day, I was like, we need to get Daisy a Chihuahua. And he was like, I wouldn't be mad about it. That day I went to the mall, and the pet shop at the mall had Chihuahuas in the window. And I was like, is this a sign? So we got Pablo. So I literally came home and was like, meet Daisy's brother. And Luke's like, are you serious? And I was like, yep.
That's a cute love story there in itself. So does she not like certain people? Does she have a vibe?
She's a big vibe. So she doesn't like anyone that's got loud energy. Anyone like, because Luke and I have a very, like, I know I was saying like Luke's a real erratic person, but he's actually very like, both of our moods are very much like this. Like, we're not fluctuating moods, people. Like, we don't have peaks and highs and like, highs and lows or anything like that. We're very stable in our mood, and our environment's very stable. Luke and I don't argue, like, we don't flare up at each other. We're very calm, and our home's very calm. And so she's kind of adapted to that. You get her in an environment, like if we have people over, which we don't often do, but we have people over and it gets too loud, she gets overwhelmed and she'll put herself away. Poor Luke's mum. Luke's mum came over for our wedding. We got married 2 years ago, right before COVID shut everything down. So Luke's mum flew over from Texas. She stayed with us for 10 days. Daisy did not warm to her at all. I remember Luke's mum was sitting out in the backyard once, and I just hear Daisy barking, and I was like, what is she barking at? And I go outside and she's just barking at Luke's mum. Like, she doesn't do that. And I was like,
wow.
Daisy, but Luke's mum's allowed. She's a loud Texan. But yeah, so she's very much needs like her safe space. She does get overwhelmed very easily. Loud noises she hates. Like, we take her down to the gym sometimes, she hates it there.
Really?
Hates it. Yeah, we only take her if we need to, like on the way to the vet, or if Luke and I are going to be there all day, we'll take the dogs so they're not home by themselves all day. So she's
a personality on her own.
She is all emotion, and she has a human soul, I swear to God. Okay. But it's funny because the 3 dogs, because then we got Frank, the French bulldog, because Luke's always wanted a French bulldog his entire life. And because I just came home with Pablo, he was like, well, now I get to choose a dog. I was like, okay. So he got Frank, who's our Frenchie. But Daisy is all emotion, like just you can tell. It's like she wears her heart on her sleeve. You can just tell what she's feeling, and she just reacts emotionally to everything.
She must be a Cancerian.
Are you a Cancer?
Yeah,
same. That explains
there
it.
You go.
Well, her birthday, we don't know her birthday because obviously we got given one when she was when we got her from the RSPCA, but then the surgeon told us she was younger, so it would have been a lie. But it was July 17th.
I'm 21.
Yeah. So am I.
Wow, that's really weird.
We have the same birthday.
That's really weird.
How funny is that?
That is bizarre. You heard it first, ladies and gentlemen. The 21st of July is the date.
Yes. What it is. What year are you?
83.
Oh, I'm 87.
Oh, okay. Cute. You're still a baby.
But no, so Daisy's all emotion. Pablo is he's intelligent as all. He's just so smart. He's tactical. So like if you give them each a treat, like one of each, 2 will get discarded, and then they'll just constantly steal one off each other. Like, they'll just wait and then they'll nip it when they need and run away. Pablo will sit there and bide his time. He always ends up with it. He always wins. But what he'll do, he'll bark at the front door, and the other 2 will rush to the front door. He'll pick up the treat and run in the other direction. Like, he's just all tactics.
Oh, how funny.
And then Frank, the Frenchie, is just dog intuition, like just dog.
So
like,
young.
Something's moving fast and he's like, oh, I've got to chase it. Like, he's just got so it's a really funny dynamic, actually. And they're so great together.
Really reactive, sounds like it.
Yeah.
So I'm going to touch on just a couple more things. Like you mentioned, when you did your course with Poliquin, from my memory, there was a lot of things about hormones. There's a big hormone thing that came out.
The whole thing was basically on hormones.
Okay, so something along the lines is if you carry body fat around your butt, your estrogen, something like that.
Yeah, that was it. So I think Charles came out with, my understanding, this is secondhand, obviously, knowledge that I've learned from Luke, and I hope I don't butcher it because otherwise he'll be like, Zoe, that's not right. And I'm like, sorry. My understanding is Charles came out with Biosig, and there was, I can't remember how many sites on the body there were.
Quite a few.
Yeah.
It's like belly, underarm, back, these 9. Okay.
I don't know.
Sites.
I could be wrong. There was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 7 or not. I can't remember. Anyway, there's quite a lot. And depending on, where you held your body fat, it depended on what your hormones were doing. And essentially what I understand is the system was created to sell supplements. Because they're a supplement company.
So I went to a trainer that did all of that.
Yeah. Now, I also there's a lot of arguments that you can't spot reduce body fat, right? Like a lot. There is some studies I haven't read. I've just heard Luke talk about them, and I don't know how valid they are or how solid they are as studies. There are some studies where they have had people subjects do just upper body conditioning and then just lower body conditioning, and the ones that did just upper body conditioning got leaner on the upper body, and then the ones that did just lower body. So whilst there is like a global effect, it did happen, but obviously you can't just be like, I want to lose it from like just under my armpit or like just on my stomach. But in saying this, females and males store fat in different locations. Why? Because of our hormones. We have different hormones. If we hold them where it's easy to access for like to grow babies and feed babies. Males, I don't know why they store where they store, but you know, typically like around the face, around, maybe it's for like quick fuel source when they're hunting. I don't know. When you do start having hormone imbalances, which happen gradually over time, like it's never typically never like a quick overnight change, drastic change, but gradual over time, and you can start holding fat in male or female pattern mannerisms. So you know, guys can start to grow boobs. You see that ladies start to hold it in like especially like around the stomach area, around their face. That can indicate that there is a hormone imbalance. Fixing that hormone imbalance, which isn't a role of trainers, is not a role of trainers do, but fixing that would therefore fix the area that it is causing fat to be stored. So in that regard, you can spot reduce, right? So it's just like, well, let's fix the reason why it's you know, happening in the first place. But from my understanding, I believe there are only one or two of the sites from BioSig that were legitimately linked. And I think one might have been cortisol and the umbilical, and then maybe subscap might have been another one.
Okay. There was definitely one.
There's definitely one or two that are like legitimate. Then when Charles left Poliquin Group and started Strength Sensei, he came out with Bioprint and he added in the calf muscle, which I think he just added in to make it different so he couldn't be sued. I'm not sure.
So so there's definitely a difference in terms of women and men in terms of weight loss and you know the time it takes for them to lose weight, right? Because I'll see a guy at the gym in 1 week and he looks completely different, and the next 2 weeks he's just shredded.
I know that from my understanding, guys are a lot more resilient with physical stuff like that because of the testosterone and the androgen hormones that they have. Like they're built to be physical specimens. And it's such a hard conversation to have these days, especially with the whole like feminism movement and equality. And it's like, yeah, absolutely. 100%. I agree that there should be fairness and opportunities and fairness and equal situations between male and female, but we are not the same. Like we are not like especially when you look at like, a big thing I've seen, not recently, actually, it's been a while since I've seen anything about it, but the physical requirements for like the police force and the armies and the military and all that sort of stuff, it's easier for females than it is males. And obviously that's to equate for the difference. But then it's like, but if they're going out and performing the same job, they should all be hitting the same requirements. And unfortunately, males do have it easier to grow muscle, lose fat, maybe not lose fat.
No?
Don't know, actually. It's a good question. I might ask Luke, but I just feel like I wonder if there's a degree of like they can detach emotion a lot easier from food than females can. I know that we bought more health-wise, we naturally have a high body fat percentage. It's harder for us to get really low. And it's not as healthy. Like we are a lot more fragile physiologically than males, like especially because of the fact that we reproduce. So our healthy levels of body fat are higher than males. But in terms of if you have like an obese female and an obese male, like whether it would be easier for that male to drop drastic amounts initially or not, I'm not sure.
Because I read somewhere or someone made a statement saying that like the reason why it's so difficult for women to lose weight is because, we're made to have babies. We're made to go through just say a famine, whereas men can, just die
Yeah.
off. We want to preserve that baby. So how
Yeah.
old are those
Yeah.
genes in us to
Yeah.
really be that strong?
Maybe. Yeah, that's a good point. I don't know. I've not really looked into that, but it makes a lot of sense. A lot of stuff makes a lot of sense when you look into the purpose of how it served us eons ago, you know. I
Yeah,
hate using this
definitely.
like
And
in a
then when you
caveman
put
state.
in all the current lifestyle factors, stress, and then the female goes, well, I'm not going to eat. I'm just going to have like 1,000 calories because I looked on Instagram. My favorite Insta person said 1,000 calories, but all she has is like protein powder and in some kind of mix, no plants. So I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do
Yeah.
X amount of cardio because
Because it's
they
what they
do that.
do. Do you know what gives me the shits about that? And so, like, all of our teachings with Muscle Nerds are around stress physiology and how stress alters how your body responds to diet and nutrition, and basically teaches coaches how to assess when someone's stressed, what to do, and more importantly, what not to do. Because when someone is in a chronic state of stress, historically, food was only ever scarce in times of flood, famines, and wars, right? And so you've obviously your hypothalamus and your brain is constantly assessing everything, not just like your blood levels of stuff, but your belief systems, your feelings, your environment. And it's asking the question, am I safe? If you are dieting in a period of high stress or stress, all you're doing is confirming to your body that food is scarce. So it's like, oh, let's hold on to what we've got. And that's the whole thing where it's like starvation mode. Is it a thing? Is it not? Like, it's not in the sense that you put on weight or never lose weight. It's just a little bit like you more have to force your body to do it than coax your body to want to do it, which is a healthier way to do it. So in times of dieting, like if you're in times of stress, like eat at maintenance. Like give your body what it needs. Like stress depletes so many nutrients as well. So it's like just you need to feed yourself. You need to tell your body that you're safe. That's why breathing is so important as well. Like one of the best ways you can communicate to your body that you're safe and not in a life-threatening situation is if you take a breath in, inhale for say 3 seconds, 4 seconds, however long it is, but your exhale needs to be twice as long. So if you inhale for 3 seconds, you'd exhale for 6. And that essentially communicates to your body that you're safe, because in a time of like life-threatening danger, you wouldn't have the luxury of being able to do nice, slow, long exhales. And exhales also are shown to raise your parasympathetic nervous system. So that's another way to just like help get your stress down, let you know your body know you're safe.
Yeah.
But yeah, the diet, like the watching on Instagram and just doing something because someone else's is just like the worst.
So obviously, yeah, I get it. And you spend a lot of time, effort, money into your business, into your education. How does it make you feel when you see people who have a platform who spread misinformation? Like I'll tell you with myself, I don't comment because it's really easy to sit and comment. If I see a person, I'd rather tell them in real time, which I'll never see them, but it takes more energy to comment it takes more energy because I'm feeling the backlash because I'll constantly think about it. Whereas if you go, whatever, like, how does that make you feel?
It's hard. I mean, to be honest, I have curated my Instagram to not really follow many people that are shit. I know that it's out there. The hardest thing is, I guess, when you have conversations with our Gen Pop gym members and they've seen something and you have to explain to them why it's not right or it's wrong. In terms of people that are spreading misinformation, do you know what? Like, I understand, as shit as it is, I understand how the industry has gotten to this point. You have the people, like, especially now with social media, but even prior to that, you have people who are trying to chase fame and money. Like obviously they're doing it for the wrong reasons at the start, but they're doing it by tapping it into people's desires of laziness and wanting instant gratification. So that is across the board. People have that, right? They want the most amount of return for the smallest amount of work and they want it now. And so people know that that's what people want. So they're like, oh, I'm going to market to that. Let's do an 8-week challenge and you don't, you know what I mean? Like, or like, let's have the skinny tea. You don't have to drink any, like make any effort on your part. You just have to drink this and you're going to get results really fast. So it's like instant gratification, quick results by not putting in any effort. And that's how it's gotten to the point, and I get it. And I think when you see the people that are in it for the long haul, like we recently have, actually just today, this morning, we put up a post not that long ago, I don't know, last week or whenever it was, really recently, of just the differences in split squats.
Oh yeah, I saw that one, leaning forward.
Yeah. So you've got your short stride, your long stride, all that sort of stuff. Anyway, someone literally copy and pasted it word for word into their own post, like another coach, and shared it. And I remember, like, Luke and I have had this happen a couple of times in the past. Never this blatantly obvious. Like, at least rewrite it in your own words, so it's your
Did they
voice.
change the picture at least?
They took their own pictures, because the picture wasn't me doing
but they
it.
cut and paste. They
pasted the
cut and
text, the
paste.
copy, literally word for word. Like, we put them next to each other, and it's exactly the same. Anyway, and we've had conversations in the past, and it's like, these people aren't doing it for the right reasons. You know what I mean? They're doing it because they want recognition, or they want to be seen as some type of superior or educator, or having knowledge that they don't have. And Luke has just said in the past, he's like, we can create faster than anyone can ever copy. So you just have to be like, you know what? Yeah. And I think you just have to stand true, and like we can create faster than they can copy.
I feel bad, like, because I always repost Yoda memes. I'm like, where did I get this from? And then
memes, I think, are designed to just be like
still
viral.
Yeah, but still, like, someone took the time out to put something really funny. I was like, that's funny, you know. But that's
all the time.
That's next level.
And there's people like that. And then there's the people who are just putting out misinformation. Whether they know it's misinformation is a different story. But then it's kind of like, that's where you start having the conversation around people are wanting to be educators without ever having been students. And it's, I don't know, it's hard, but all you can do is just try and stay in your own lane with like your blinkers on, and just try and focus on like doing what you believe is the right thing to do. Because you know what, like, no one's a bad person in their own head. No one is a bad person in their own head. So these people that are sharing stuff probably genuinely think that they're helping, genuinely think that they're sharing some valuable information. Whether it is or isn't is a discussion to be had. Like, you know, I mean, there's probably some stuff that we might have shared that's
100%
more knowledge than us, is like, that's not entirely accurate. So it's like, who gets to police the industry? No one. Who gets to dictate what's right or wrong? Like, it's such a complex thing, and social media really has blurred a lot of lines. But all you can do is just hope that, I guess, the truth or the right thing eventually is like cream to the top, like it just rises to the top, and everyone else kind of either learns along the way and gets better, or fizzles out.
Yeah, I guess the thing that irks me is the quite high profile people who post about, this is what I eat in the day, all that stuff. But you don't tell me about the other added supplements or illicit, like prescription or non-prescription drugs that you take. Like, you know, like, I competed a long time ago, and that was really hard to get that lean. I didn't take anything. People didn't believe me. I just, like, it was my diet, it was exercise.
You have to live and breathe it.
I looked like a greyhound on stage, and the other girl looked thick, and I was like, how can that be at that body? Like, I was really naive. So that's what shits me.
Oh, bless.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is really hard. You know, the one thing that does irk me is the whole, like, train like me, insinuating that doing that is going to make people look like you, and that is not the case at all. You know, we've had people come to us for training, and they, you know, they've given us who they want to look like, and you just say, just FYI, like, aside of whether they are on anything or not, do you understand what it takes? Like, this person has counted every single macro, every single calorie that has been gone into their mouth in the last 5 years. They've never missed a training session in the last 5 years. Like, are you prepared to do that? And I think, I don't know whether, I had this conversation, Luke and I recorded a podcast yesterday as well, and we had this conversation on there, and it was just, I've said for a while now that I believe that the industry is promoting or advertising or marketing to the industry. So we're making the divide between the people who need the industry, so the general population people, the people who just need to lose a little bit of weight, get a little bit healthier, and then the industry itself, like us. I feel like we're making this divide bigger because we are portraying something that to this camp seems unattainable, not enjoyable, something that they'll never be able to achieve or want to do, live a lifestyle they don't want to do. So they just like, I'm not even going to try, because these people here portray everything to be, I've counted my macros for years. I've never missed a workout. I train really hard. And this person's like, but I don't want to give up my nightly wine. I don't want to give up my birthday cakes. I don't want to give up my meal out. And these people are like never showing like, or teaching or educating people how you can maybe make your life a little better and still include those things, but you're just not going to get here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just so extreme in this camp.
It is. Or like, you can make your own Snickers bar with all this whey protein powder, or you can have your Snickers bar. Like, which one do you want?
Yeah. And this camp's going to go, give me a fucking Snickers bars. Like, don't give me that protein bullshit. Like, that's what this camp's going to say.
Exactly. And we haven't even touched on other aspects of like, with average population, and especially females. I feel like females, obviously from my experience, I feel like we've copped it for quite some time in the industry and in like on TV, social media. Everything seems to be marketed. Like the other day I was like, what's this on during the day? It was some kind of ridiculous shake during the day, I haven't even like spoken about, like I was listening to a podcast the other day about like post-pregnancy or miscarriage and what happens to hormones after that. Like that's a whole nother kettle of fish, with those topics.
We really cop it, don't we? And I think it's all targeted towards the females because we're the ones that the beauty standards are set for. You know what I mean? Like the beauty standards aren't set for men. Men get better looking with age. Women need to stay youthful. Big guys, if you're rich, doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah.
Girls, if you're rich, you still need to look good.
Have you seen the latest Sex in the City?
No, and I've never watched Sex in the City.
Okay. All right. It's really good. I like Sex in the City, but Miranda decides to not color her hair. She goes gray, right? At the end, she colors her hair. But basically, I saw this post. Kim Kardashian was like, "Oh, I'm glad one of the characters." Wasn't it? What did I call her? Miranda. Oh, yeah. Miranda. I'm glad she went red. I went back. Like, but if it was a guy, it would be like George Clooney.
Yeah, he's salt and pepper.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So all the beauty standards are around men. And do you know what? Actually, it's kind of on topic, off topic slightly. I saw some real good meme a while ago, and it's, why don't we ever see any plus size male models? Because men don't care. You know what I mean? Like, whereas females have been conditioned to care about what they look like. They're conditioned to have that pressure to look like everyone else. Whereas men are like, man, that guy looks fucking jacked. Good on him. You know what I mean? Yes. Or the opposite thing. So a thin girl will look in the mirror and be like, man, I'm fat. A skinny guy will look at, like, the guys have the opposite. They'll be like, man, I'm jacked. Like, whereas it's like, no, you're not.
Yeah. And that all makes sense. I just want to ask you one more question before we head, because I've taken so much of your time, and we've talked about all these different stuff and all these different content. Where do you see yourself, in the next few years with Muscle Nerds, with your babies, and with your cooking? Because we haven't even spoken about your
cooking. I love cooking. Just like, I just don't understand people who don't cook. So good question. What I want to do is, the last 6 to 12 months, I've really started to question why. Like, I think I made a post about it towards the end of last year. And it was just like, this year, I just want to start working on my business, not in my business. So I do a lot of like the stuff that can be delegated. And we've kind of at that point when that's what's holding back the growth of Muscle Nerds. But then it's like, why do we want to grow? Every single time we add a new employee, add a new service, add a new product, buy a new gym, whatever, all it does is add stress and worry and more work on our shoulders. Like, we're not doing it in a smart enough way where it's like alleviating things. So it's like, to what extent are we prepared to give up our work-life balance, our stress, and our health for growth? So we're kind of at the point now where I'm just like, I would rather almost like find a nice, comfortable spot where we earn just enough to feed the dogs, just enough to get a house that they can have a nice yard, just enough where I can have the weekends off, where I can spend time with them, where I can financially help more dogs. But then it's just figuring out how to structure Muscle Nerds so that we can do that. I am this year just towards the end of last year, have started working on a computer software that I would like to release it's probably a good year or two in the making. There's nothing like it in the industry at the moment, and hoping nothing comes up before ours does. But that's where I want to shift our focus to, because then it's like, it's more, we're not selling time for money like we are with online training and like our education and stuff like that. That'll give us a lot of better lifestyle. And then with the dogs, I want more.
Why dogs? Why did you say you want to take care of more dogs? Why?
I just love dogs. They're so vulnerable. Like, they're so what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they are solely relying on us to look after them. Like, we don't let them be wild and look after themselves. Yeah. And so I just think they're so innocent and they're so pure, and they're better than most humans. And the love that a dog gives is just, oh my God, it's amazing.
Well, they'll always come back to you.
Always.
Like, you see a dog that's been abused, he'll always come back to the owner, right?
Isn't that sad? We can learn a lot off dogs. But I just think there's so many that, just because Luke and I, we don't plan on having children. It's just like not in our plan. Neither of us want to be parents or alter our lifestyle big enough to accommodate for a child, because I think it's like the idea of a baby is like, oh my God, how cute, like swoon. But the idea of raising a human for 18 years and beyond is what's like, not really in it for that. Like, I'm not keen for that. Like, having a baby, yes, maybe, and a toddler, cool, but like, then you've got to think they go through their preteens, their teens, like, no.
It's full on. It's definitely full on. But we're gonna wrap that with one more question. What's your favorite dish to make? Tell me.
God, my favorite dish to make. Yes. I love a salad. Honestly, that sounds but salad, you can make so many different salads. Like, and I love prawn and mango salad. Like, I have a base of rocket.
Very Queensland.
I love. Very Queensland, very summery for sure. It is absolutely, that's a summer salad. But then you can even do like, beef and roast pumpkin salads. You can do beetroot and feta salads, and chicken and salmon and fit. I really like fresh salads. Like, you can make them so tasty.
So if you've listened to this podcast, the biggest takeaway is eat more salad.
Eat more salads, yeah.
Like to dogs and animals.
Eat plant-based, garnish it with meat. Make huge salad and just sprinkle some meat on top if you eat meat.
That's it. Well, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to jump on this podcast.
So welcome.
I hope you enjoyed it. I hope everybody listens and enjoys it and takes something away. Thank you.